I know that a big part of the reason you clicked on this video is because that sentence called out to you in some way. And it's something that I believe in very strongly because in the past couple of years, I have accomplished things that I didn't think was possible. And I don't mean that in the sense of I didn't think it was physically possible, but I didn't think I would be able to do it. But fully embracing the effect of that sentence and the potential outcomes of it, both positive and negative, has allowed me to do things that I previously only dreamed of. And so I want to go over the mistakes that I made in the past year and the lessons that I learned so that I can relearn and remind myself of these lessons because, like most people, I need to be reminded of my lessons more than I need to be taught. And hopefully by recording it, some of you watching will also find it helpful. So what happened in 2024? Well, what actually happened was I stopped building Gom Admissions, which was a high ticket consulting service for college admissions for students that were building businesses. And then I spent a couple of months meandering around trying to find out what to do next, and eventually started building WordRobin, which is the writing software that you actually see here. And there were a couple of lessons in that whole process of cancelling and refunding all the people that I paid for my services, restarting multiple different businesses in a short period of time, and then finally settling in on WordRobin. And the first lesson is you don't want to sacrifice your first million for your next 10. And what had happened was for the longest time, the goal in my mind was to reach a certain revenue amount with Gom Admissions. So I just wanted to make a certain amount of money per month. And really that was my driving force. And then below that was kind of the idea that I enjoyed helping people. And I do still. But that was secondary to my selfish goal. And what I found was, as soon as I started getting people that were willing to pay me for my services, it became so difficult to convince myself that that was the correct goal. And so setting the correct goal actually, I think, is one of the most important things that you can do for yourself. If you have the wrong goal, then the journey along the way can actually become demotivating. Like, it can be a negative incentive because what you thought you wanted was not actually what you wanted. And so the closer you get to what you thought you wanted, the less you actually feel like you want it. So in my case, I thought I wanted more money, and, I still do, but to be clear, but I thought that was my primary objective. But as soon as I started getting a little bit closer to it, it became very evident that that was not actually what I wanted. So what does that mean? What is a good goal? A good goal, I think, is something that is large enough to sustain you and something that makes you want it more the closer you get to it. And for me, my personal goal is to help others embrace the adventure of their lives. And the way that I've chosen to do that is by helping people write, helping people become a better writer. And I've done that because personally, it has helped me a lot to learn to write, to learn to think through writing. There's a kind of depth and definition that has to come with writing that forces you to sort out your thoughts. And so that has been extremely helpful to me. And so I want to help other people embrace that journey. And of course, I have the same material goals. I want to be able to buy my own time back. I want to have the freedom to do whatever I want. And I want to be able to, treat the people that I love to nice experiences and so on and so forth. But those things, I think, happen as a consequence of your higher order goal. So that's something that has tripped me up. Putting money as a highest objective, it doesn't sustain me, at least. Maybe it'll sustain someone else. But for me, that wasn't the goal. What this means for me is that I ended up switching businesses a bunch of times because as soon as I started looking at an opportunity, I realized that I could do more. I could dream bigger. And then what ended up happening was I would want to switch over to that bigger thing, that next thing. Uh, and what I forgot in that process was that the cost of switching is extremely high. When you're starting up a business, when you're spooling something up, all the little minutiae of setting up accounts, setting up Google Ads accounts, like winding down your old business so you don't have any legal liability, like little things like that actually end up taking much longer than you might expect. And so I lost a fair amount of 2024 to just switching things around. And to my credit, I think I was able to move along from things fairly quickly. But ultimately, I do think it was a mistake because I wasn't accurately estimating how much effort it would take for me to switch from one opportunity to another. The second thing I learned is that you're building yourself, and experiences all that matters. And this really clicked for me when I started using the skills I learned in sales from Gom Admissions, the business that I wound down, in my day job. So for those of you that don't know, I also work at a startup, and I found that a lot of leading people in a team and working in a team is both sales and education, which are skills that I had practiced through Gom Admissions, through the sales process and through the delivery process, where I was actually trying to teach students how to grow their business. And so even though I ended up probably at a net loss from Gom Admissions because I ended up refunding everyone, and I actually ended up with less money in my bank account, I gained incredibly valuable skills that I will continue to use, that has helped me up to this point and that I will continue to build on so that it will help me more in the future. And so in that sense, I ended up gaining. And so I focused a lot more of my attention on learning and thinking about experiences as a learning process, a journey of learning. And I've learned a lot of things. There are a lot of things I don't know still, but it's been useful to know that things that don't work out still have a positive benefit. The next one is on bundles of problems. So what do I mean by that? There are so many questions that you need to answer to go from an idea to a working business where someone is paying you money for your services or your product. I've learned that I have to be more flexible when it comes to how I solve these questions. So in the beginning, I really only had one gear, which was volume, pure volume. I was following the maxim that volume negates luck. And because I'm not lucky, I need to do a lot of volume. And so in the beginning, in 2023, most of my work was just doing. I was doing every day. I was reaching out to people. I was trying out messaging. I was writing blog posts. I was making videos, making Instagram posts. Every day I was just doing. But a real shift actually happened sort of halfway through 2024 when in my day job, I got the feedback that I was looking angry. People were scared of me because I was angry, and people didn't want to talk to me because I was angry. And this really shocked me because I have no anger towards other people. I am very hard on myself. I'm strict on myself. But the way that I was presenting myself to the world was making people think that I was angry with them. And so this was a real wake-up call. The amount of volume that I was doing required so much intensity that people were scared of me. And that was actually impacting my ability to lead, to influence people, to get other people to follow me, and to encourage other people, and to create a cohesive, positive, driven team. And so, in a very real way, it was impacting the business that I was serving. And I recognized that a lot of this perceived anger actually came from intensity. So, a lesson I learned is that there's a limit to how much you can do by yourself. There always is. Even the best person at something, right? Like, you're the best at customer service, you're the best at cold outreach. There was a situation last year, for example, where there was a customer service issue with my job. And so everyone had to go on to the customer service pool. And I remember I did 400 tickets in one day. And the previous highest number of tickets per day was 100. And granted, I wasn't doing like general tickets. I was specifically focused on just this one thing. But still, my goal was to do 4x the previous highest number, and I did. But if you put together the output of the entire CS team, it was still probably, 4 or 5 times the output that I had as an individual contributor. And so no matter how good I am, no matter how good I think I am at a particular skill, it's always possible to get more done by getting other people involved. And so if I want to do amazing things at scale, if I want to change the world, like I say I do, then it's not just about the doing. It's not just about how much I do. And obviously that matters, but it's also about how much I can get other people to do and how much leverage I have on my inputs. And so it's actually been interesting to know that you can optimize around doing work too much. So then what have I been working on, right? In 2024, I learned to code. I built WordRobin up from scratch. To be frank, I used AI tools a lot, but I know how every part of this machine that I've built works, and I intend to keep building on it. So this is something that I learned how to do. I've been working on leadership. So in my day job, I've gone less and less from actually doing things to more and more helping other people do things and getting people aligned to do the things that actually benefit the business. And finally, I've been working on my writing. So I decided to focus more on writing as a specific form of content, because I do believe that becoming a better writer will make me a better thinker. And that is important to me. If I can think better, I can make decisions better. And if I can make better decisions, then I can move forwards more quickly. Something that is a factor is money and how I'm using the limited amounts that I make every month to get more. So in a lot of ways, I think of money as investments. Every day, I make investments of both my time, in terms of how I spend my time, and money, in terms of how I'm using the money that I have to get more in the future. And this has really been kind of a 2-part process. And so the way to get there is a 2-part process. Number 1 is spending less. And number 2 is spending more on things that will increase your capacity to earn. Step 1, what have I been doing? I still don't eat out. I don't drink, which is a bigger money save than you might think. My living situation, I've chosen, the cheapest place that allows me to get the most amount of work done. So, for example, because I do a lot of work at home, and because I do value privacy and stability at home, it would actually be a detriment if I got a place with a roommate, even though it might be technically cheaper. And so I've chosen the cheapest studio apartment that I could find, and I got very lucky finding this place. But what that means is I can still do the most amount of work that I need to, but I also save more than if I go for, like a fancier place. Number two is spending on things that earn me more. I have spent on courses, I've spent on running ads, on software, I've spent on memberships to clubs, for example, social clubs. And not necessarily because those are the best things that I could spend money on or that all of them have given me some kind of return, but because some of them will be helpful in helping me achieve my goals quicker. And so, in my opinion, it's worth taking that bet every time. And before I move on, in 2023, one of the things that tripped me up the most was actually being able to wake up on time in the morning. So I've been waking up at 4:30 for the past couple of years now. And in 2023, I actually really struggled with it. And for the first half of 2024, I also struggled with it. Something that completely eliminated waking up early as a struggle in my life was getting a loft bed. So you might be able to see this thing up here. It's actually it's a loft bed. And by having the bed be in an elevated position and then putting my phone, my alarm, down below, and also disabling Siri so I can't use my voice to turn things off, it has completely eliminated waking up as a problem in my day-to-day life. And if you're like me and you really struggle with waking up early, but recognize that you might have to because you have work to do, then I would highly recommend a loft bed. My take on relationships has changed. So a couple of years ago, I broke up with my partner at the time because I didn't have time and we wanted different things. We met when I was a different person. And so I changed so much to the point where it didn't really make sense to be in a relationship anymore. So we broke up. And since then, my take on it has kind of changed. So I actually ended up going on a date a couple of days ago. And it was a new experience because in the past, I've, like most people, tried to make myself seem attractive. But in this instance, I've almost done the opposite, or I tried to make myself less attractive to the other person because what I'm looking for is crystal clear. What I'm looking for is someone who has ambition, who is hardworking, who recognizes that you need to make sacrifices in order to reach your goals, and who isn't afraid to do things that other people might think is extreme, like working through the Christmas holiday period. And so what I ended up doing was not focusing at all on generating spark in a sense, and focusing on, does this make sense logically? Like, do we help each other get to each other's goals? And in this instance, it turns out what the other person was looking for was more of a spark, which is fine. But by being entirely myself in that situation, I was able to discern and actually repel the person that wasn't right for me from the get-go. And so that has kind of changed my opinion on relationships a little bit because we actually ended up working together on a second date, and that was actually really productive. Like, I got a lot done, and I could get a glimpse into how having the right partner would be adding fuel to your fire rather than distraction. So that was interesting and something I'll definitely think about more and explore more. Let's talk WordRobin. I've been building this website for a couple of months now, and there are a few lessons that I've had to learn. Number one is I built this thing because I wanted it, because I needed it. But I'm having real problems finding the right avatar, the right people who actually want this thing as much as I do. And so the thing about that problem is you're never sure, or at least I'm never sure if that's because my messaging is unclear or because it's something that people don't want, full stop. I'm never sure. And so what I'm going to have to do now is do a lot of experimenting, just reach out to a lot of people, run ads, see what sticks, throw a lot of spaghetti on the wall, see what sticks. And I think this is a lesson that I'll carry forward a little bit more into, future features and maybe my next project, whatever that ends up being, because this process it's a lot like running in a maze blindfolded. Like, you don't know what's around the corner, you don't know where the walls are, and you kind of have to feel things out, and it's a lot of time and effort. And so it might make sense to do that time and effort, that work, before actually building things out. Even if you're crystal clear on what you want the thing to be, it might not be that evident that other people also want the same. So that's lesson number one. Lesson number two is most of the features that I started out with haven't made the cut up till this point. And so there was this feature called the sentence flow. And what this did was it divided up a paragraph into its constituent sentences, and then it did like a similarity analysis. And so you could see how similar or different sentences were, and you could like drag it around, play around with it. That was the whole feature set. I ended up taking that out. And so this is another one of those instances where you have to talk to people and you have to figure out how people actually use the service, how people interact with it. So many of the things that I built and spent a lot of time building, I ended up just cutting out. And I've gotten better and better at cutting things out. A lot of what I've done has become cutting things out, right? It's not necessarily about adding things. It's about cutting things out, condensing things into the core essence of what people find useful. Because what ends up happening, if you have too many features, people don't stick around to find out which one of those features are going to help them. And so what ends up happening is people just churn away. The moment they get confused, people just click away. You're fighting against everything else in the world that they could be doing. And in this instance, you've managed to capture their attention by selling them a promise of what your service, your app is going to help them do. The moment that promise seems less likely, they will churn away. Users will go away just like that. Easy come, easy go. And so because of that, a lot of my attention has gone into stuff like this, which is like onboarding, right? Making sure that people are ticking the right steps and giving people the first few steps for free so that they can actually move forwards to get to the stuff that's beneficial. What's next? What am I going to do in 2025? What do I want to accomplish? What are my goals? Honestly, not much is going to change in terms of what I do day to day. I'm still going to try and push forwards. I'm still going to work very hard. I'm still going to push myself. But I think the focus of my work is going to be a little bit more on making sure that I'm working on the right things, because as I progress, as I've gotten better, through learning how to code, through learning how to be a leader, it's become much and much more evident that it's not just about how hard you work, it's about what you work on. And operating off of the idea of the theory of constraint, which is the idea that a business will grow up till its bottleneck. So whatever is bottlenecking, whatever is the bottleneck for your business will be the constraint that holds back your rate of progress. And so for me, I guess earlier on, I didn't have to be as deliberate about what I worked on because everything was a constraint. Nothing worked. And so I could just scattergun effort at everything and it still made things better. But now, as I'm progressing slightly, I need to be a little bit more deliberate about what I'm working on. So for example, right now, there are a couple of fixes to my software that I need to make. But beyond that, I don't actually need to add more features or like make this much better. For me, what I need to do now is focus on my messaging, focus on my offer, focus on my targeting, and get people through the door so that I can test and reiterate on the messaging that I present to people. So a lot of that day-to-day activity isn't necessarily going to be pulling up code and tinkering with it. It's going to be talking to people. It's going to be running ads. It's going to be testing landing pages and messages and audiences. And so the day-to-day work changes because I'm no longer focused on actually just building the product. Like, the product is at a point where I know that this thing is useful. So I just need to get it to a point where I know who wants it, who it's most useful for, so I can figure out how to best reach them and best target them. So that's going to be my goal. 2024 has flown by. It really has. Looking back, I guess a lot has changed. It doesn't feel like it day to day because I'm me every day. Every day I'm doing the same thing. So it doesn't necessarily feel like I've made progress, but objectively, I guess I have. I know I'll be making the video again next year, but hopefully I'll be able to say the same, which is that I'm proud of how I did in 2024, and I have things that I can improve for 2025. And I hope that I will be able to come back next year and say, here's what I did right in 2025, and here are the things that I can improve for 2026. On that note, I hope you have a strong start to your 2025. Do great things, challenge yourself, push yourself, and I'll speak to you next year.